6,500 kilometers, 36 places, on a journey to the edge of Vietnam, and to myself. From high passes to silent border roads, from storms to mountains, and strangers who became stories, to the moments that shaped this odyssey. And this is my road home, where despite of all the chaos that happened, I found myself once again. So fasten your helmet straps and join my last leg, and the throwback of this amazing voyage.
So, good morning from Tây Ninh.
Yes, you heard it right, we are leaving the city of Tây Ninh behind us and riding into our final leg of this long and amazing odyssey. The road ahead will lead us straight into Saigon, the place where it all began, so many moons ago. So, let us see what awaits us on this last stretch. Before we make a last dive back into the incredible highlights of this 6,500 kilometer journey, which has been loaded with pure and real human adventures. This is the town of Rạch Sơn, a small farming hamlet here in the lowlands of Gu Dao, a place most riders barely notice, but it carries the weight of history as the silent corridor which linked Tây Ninh, Ho Chi, and the Cambodian frontier. Moreover, during the Second Indochina War, Rạch Sơn was right inside the high-value military triangle of Tây Ninh and its base areas, which was the capital of the southern resistance. Then there was Ho Chi, which is famous for its tunnel network and guerrilla stronghold, as well as the Cambodian border, which provided sanctuaries, supply routes, and the command centers. A triangle which formed the southern gateway to the Ho Chi Minh Trail system. Although Rạch Sơn was not a battlefield town, it was a rather dangerous movement zone, where the war passed through quietly and constantly. Here we are passing the town of Ho Chi Minh, which was also a place where the war passed quietly through the canals and the fields. It was one of the many places where ordinary people carried extraordinary courage, until the very day on a Thursday the 8th of June in 1972, when the village of Trảng Bàng, which is right nearby here, became the center of a tragedy that would echo across the world. It was when one aircraft which was targeting a suspected NLF position, released napalm along the route number 1. But sadly hit the fleeing civilians who tried to escape the fighting. In the unimaginable chaos that followed, children ran screaming from the smoke. It became an event which was changing their lives forever. One photograph captured that moment. It was the single frame of the girl named Phan T. Kim Phuc, which was taken by an AP photographer on this very Thursday the 8th of June, which revealed the immense human cost of the war more clearly than any report or speech ever could do.
So we just turned left into the TL7. So, and here we turn to the right. Oh.
Take the next left.
And we turned away from the main road and riding through the fields of Hao Nia and Duc Lap, which seems to be a place that does not quite belong to any map, and I am not sure yet if it really was such a smart decision. Here, the canal draws an invisible line between the two provinces of Ho Chi Minh and Tây Ninh, and as well between the known and the forgotten. It really feels like I am traversing through a no man's land, where the asphalt faded into dirt, and my GPS signal flickers like the memory itself. Furthermore, I also learned that during the war, these canals carried messages, soldiers, and a lot of silence. Today, they carry only reflections of the clouds, of the time and of a country that keeps moving forward while its ghosts still linger in the water, which makes it somehow even scarier. To me it feels like I am riding on the border of certainty, where the road may or may not exist, but the story always does.
It should be here, but...
This is the back road behind and after the Tai Hoa Industrial Park. It is running from Ton Hoa to Duc Lap Ha, then from Trom Loc to Mai Han back, and is one of those strange, liminal corridors where Vietnam feels like it is holding its breath.
Google Map.
This is a road that exists physically, but not spiritually, as even the map itself seems unsure what to do here. It gives the impression to be the kind of place where the industry ends and where the countryside begins or vice versa. Not really sure what is going on here, but it looks like that parts of it is abandoned and parts of it is under intense renovation and upgrading, while the future might have the final answer in their pocket.
Take the next left.
Okay, we made it. Woo. Then we come to the road under construction. Terrible again. Oh my God, the dust.
We have somehow crossed from the unfinished backroads of Tram Loc and Mai Han back into Duk Hoa. Don't ask me how, but I was following the canal that threaded through the borderlands of Long An and Tây Ninh, and which brought me here toward the DT-824, which should be the last rural artery that is leading toward the pulse of Ho Chi Minh City.
Yeah, we definitely can feel that we are getting close to Ho Chi Minh.
And here is the last bridge, the line between the silence of the countryside and the energetic pulse of Saigon, the city which is never sleeping. Behind me lie the endless fields, the countless canals, and the roads that barely existed on any map, and ahead? Ahead is the city where this odyssey began and where it will end. This is the Duong Phan Von Han Street, which is one of those roads that feels like a living organism. It is certainly not a pretty street, it also does not look like it was well planned, and it is definitely not peaceful, but hey, who cares, it is alive in a way only the outskirts of Saigon can be, and that is what is important. To tell the truth, this road is hitting me like a wall full of life. After hours of riding through empty fields and silent canals, this street explodes into a marketplace that never seems to end, with shops spilling onto the pavement, even into the road, ranging from hardware to motorbike parts, plastic goods, fruit stalls, fresh markets, electronics, clothes, tools, everything you could ever need or imagine. It is all stacked here inside the shops and up to the ceiling and overflowing onto the street. It is like a local version of Shopee or Lazada, but more physical, more loud, more chaotic and wonderfully human. Unfortunately, the only thing that is really missing is the parking space, because here, the road is becoming the parking lot, the sidewalk, the shop front, and the delivery lane all at once, which makes it a bit more complicated for us who like to just get from one point to the other. But besides this, it is an amazing sample of still existing street life which you only can see here in Saigon. We already passed the southwestern edge of the Ton Son Not Airport runway, and now cruising towards the Concept Hotel in the city center, via the Gach Mong Thang Tom Street, and through the Gong Truong Don Ju, down the 3 Tang Tu Road and the Gao Tang Street, and surviving somehow the Saigon chaos, before we arrive at our final home for tonight.
What a mess.
And here we are back at the Concept Hotel, my home away from home here in Saigon. From the moment I step into the lobby, the warmth is unmistakable as I get greeted with the same genuine hospitality and turning my check-in into a welcoming home. The room is spotless, just as I remembered, as housekeeping keeps everything immaculate, fresh, bright and inviting. And the bed, as usually, unbelievably comfortable. This is the kind of room where my body finally exhales, where my rest comes naturally and sleep feels effortless. The bathroom is clean, modern, and thoughtfully equipped with everything I need. It is kept simple, functional, and perfectly maintained. Just steps from the entrance are the cafes, the restaurants, and the convenience stores which are surrounding the hotel and making everything available within a short walk. I could not ask for more. Should you be in need of a church, the Tuong Ton Matthew Lu Van Gam Catholic Church is just around the corner. Saint Matthew Lu Van Gam was a humble merchant who gave his life for his faith in 1853, and today, this quiet parish keeps his story alive. Good morning from Saigon. Here we are next to the Notre Dame Cathedral, the central post office of Saigon, and the Ho Chi Minh Book Street. Now let me quickly take you on a brief city tour and visit some of the important places. Here is the Independence Palace, once the seat of South Vietnam's presidency, and the place where history turned when tanks broke through these gates, and the war finally came to an end on April 30th, 1975. This is the Nguyen Thi Nia Park, named after Nguyen Thi Nia, a young revolutionary who fought against French colonial rule. She was part of the early resistance movements in the 1920s to the 1930s. Welcome to the Lo Loi Street, which runs like a timeline through the heart of Saigon. At one end stands the Ben Ton Market, the century-old symbol of trade and tradition. Then a bit further up is the glass tower of the Takashimaya and Saigon Center, which is the city's modern face of luxury and light. Here we reach the Bung Bin Khe Lu roundabout, with the Ho Chi Minh statue and the People's Committee building rising on my right-hand side and the Saigon Opera House standing in full French elegance straight ahead. Say hello to the Dong Khoi Street, which is famous for being the most elegant, historic, and symbolic boulevard in all of Saigon. This is the street where the city's past, present, and luxury all meet in one continuous line. And this is the riverfront corner where the Hotel Majestic Saigon stands, a century-old landmark watching over the Saigon River, right where the city's colonial past meets the modern skyline rising behind it. Of course, you cannot miss out on the iconic Nguyen Hue Boulevard, which is Saigon's Grand Promenade, the place where colonial history, modern lights, and the city's endless energy all come together in one iconic stretch. Here once again, the Ho Chi Minh statue on my left and the People's Committee building right in front. This is the Rex Hotel Saigon, a legendary landmark of the city, once the gathering place of journalists, diplomats, and storytellers during the war years, and still one of the most iconic corners of old Saigon. On my left is the famous Café apartment building, a former residential block transformed into a vertical maze of cafes, boutiques, and creative spaces, each balcony telling its own story above the boulevard. And on my right is the National Treasury building, a solid, imposing block of French-era architecture that once handled the financial heartbeat of old Saigon, and still standing firm along the boulevard today. Now on the Ham Ni Street, which begins right at the Bac Dang Wharf and pulls us directly into downtown Saigon. It is one of the main arteries connecting the riverfront to Nguyen Hue and Ben Ton. This is the back side of the Ben Ton Market along the Lu Ton Tun Street, a quieter facade of the city's most iconic market, where delivery trucks and vendors keep this century-old landmark alive. Do not miss the Phu Dong Thien Vong roundabout, with the heroic statue of the young Saint John rising at its center, a symbol of strength and protection watching over one of Saigon's busiest crossroads. We end our small city tour here at the Gong Vien Ben Ton Park, overlooking the twilight skyline of Ho Chi Minh City, a quiet moment to breathe before we dive back into the BorderLine Odyssey and revisit the best places of this unforgettable journey. Be ready, and let us begin where it all started, here in the city of Saigon, many moons ago. It all started on a Saigon rooftop bar, sipping some mysterious Chinese cocktails. Next thing, I am on a motorbike. And before I can even question my life choices, I am getting the blessing from the Virgin Mary. The first winds of the Highlands hit me here in Gia Nia, amazing sunset, mesmerizing temples and monuments. Then Buon Ma Thuat with the container hotel and nightlife. Kon Tum arrived with wooden churches, river valleys, and the gentle rhythm of the beautiful highland life. And on to the former Phoenix Airport, and up to the Deo Lo So Pass where the road tightened and the weather dramatically changed. And suddenly I was in Cam Duc.
Hello, Winmart.
2 Saigon beer.
2 Saigon beer.
A rugged outpost where the Truong Sun Mountains begin to whisper their stories with their war memorials. A town with the friendliest Winmart staff, an amazing homestay, the ghost of the lost airfields and their reputation for gold. Preo is next, cool air, deep green hills with the Trung Tom Von Hoa Huyn Dong Jong Cultural Center, a forgotten place at the crossroad and surrounded by the lush mountains. And then Ah Ka and Ah Rong, party time at the Hong Dan Homestay, a place where the forests feel ancient and the borderland breathes completely different.
That looks also quite...
Khe San appeared like a memory, windy ridges and old battlefields that still carries the heavy weight of history. From there, the road dropped into Long Son in Quang Ninh, a very quiet, rural and beautifully untouched valley far from any spotlights. Then on Sun and Kai Sun in Nay On, with its rolling hills, farming villages, and the soft heartbeat of the countryside. Mai Chau opened like a painting, white Thai stilt houses and rice terraces not only glowing in the valley's sunset light, but also during the daytime.
Oh baby, I love your madness, it's so incredibly beautiful.
After misty high passes and river crossings, I finally reached Hui Bac in Phu Yen. Crossing the amazing Khao Pha Pass, I reached Mu Chang Chai with its legendary terraces, the golden steps that climb into the sky, and the top-rated, Garia Mu Chang Chai resort by the Banyan Group. Now I am climbing the O Quy Ho Pass, which is the highest mountain gateway in Vietnam.
You shine like gold, so selfless to all, and wild like an animal.
Then Sapa Town, which is on another level entirely, mist, mountains and ethnic markets. This is a place where the sky feels close enough to touch. Especially when you go up to the Phanxipan Mountain, which is the roof of Indochina. The lower Muong Hoa Valley offers breathtaking lush and terraced rice fields with many ethnic villages. But when it rains, this canyon transforms into a landscape with increased risk of flash floods and dangerous landslides. Bac Ha followed, resting at the La Butte Bac Ha homestay, already immersed me into vibrant colors of the Sunday markets and the highland culture that moves with its own rhythm, and this was simply breathtaking. Now dropping off the Soi Thao Plateau feels like riding off the edge of the world, and onto the Ka Kok Pai Bridge into the Che River Valley. This is the kind of place reminding me why I do this ride. This is Vinh Quang and Hong Su Phi with its steep ridges, ancient terraces, which is exactly the kind of landscapes that makes me slow down just to understand this beautiful nature. Arriving in the city of Ha Giang, which is the heart of the Northern Loop, a place that opened its arms with sharp peaks and deep valleys, unfortunately it has become so crowded that old measures of permits have been reintroduced. This is the Sunday market here at Tan Go Gan, a weekly gathering for the Hmong, the Dao, and other ethnic communities living in the Gan Thi Valley of the Quan Ba district. Here we are at the Yen Min pine forests with its winding roads. We are now entering the town of Yen Min, a cool highland valley between pine forests and limestone peaks and the famous Aka Homestay Guesthouse. This is Dak Tam Ma,
Look at this.
the legendary zigzag pass between Yen Min and Pho Gao, the gateway into the deeper Dong Van Karst Plateau.
Love to play and have fun in the games. Always hungry for more, that's just how I was born. Take me somewhere I don't know, and give me your freedom. Whoa, you love me to pieces, yeah, I need it. Want your pandemonium, life is so easy. Whoa, you love me to
into the next
pieces,
wedding.
yeah, I need it. Want your pandemonium.
Finally reaching the Ma Pi Leng Pass with the Tu San Gorge, the Grand Canyon of Vietnam, here in Pa Vi and Mio Vac, on the Dragon Spine. This is the place where the world drops away beneath our wheels. And this is Bao La, a very remote and very quiet place in a valley carved by rivers and time. Climbing the Khao Kok Cha Pass, also known as the Mi Pia Pass or the 14-story pass, is one of the most dramatic mountain passes here in the Cao Bang province.
Enjoy.
Now in the Ba An Juk area, the place with Vietnam's most majestic cross-border waterfall, a real giant thundering at the edge of the country. Here we are in Tot Kay in Long Son, where limestone hills and borderland energy combine, a place where the dogs are lazy and the banh mi are handmade.
Okay, come on.
The city of Thanh Nguyen is a rather busy city, and for me it was perfect to exchange money. Welcome to Hai Phong, the city with the opera house, beautiful parks, and red brick streets. The city of Thanh Hoa is home to a beautiful Zen temple and coastal plains with deep history.
Give me your freedom. Whoa, yeah, to pieces, yeah, I need it. Want your pandemonium, life is so easy.
Hello Vinh, the city with broad boulevards and the gateway to central Vietnam. Dong Hoi with its beaches and caves, a breath of ocean air before heading up into the mountains again. And for the second time in Khe San. Here we are in Hue within the Imperial Calm, a city that moves at the pace of memory.
I think we reached the top.
Give me your freedom.
I'm hungry. What food you have? Noodle, meat.
Yeah, I need it. Want your pandemonium, life is so easy.
Not sure what happened here.
You love me to pieces, yeah, I need it. Want your pandemonium.
This is Tom Key, the turning point of episode 50, where the BorderLine Odyssey shifted into its final arc.
Nah, it's getting worse and worse.
Play Con and Nak Hoi brought me back to the borderlands, dense forests, remote checkpoints, and the raw edge of the Kon Tum province. Chu Ti and Duk Ko let me sleep in an emergency guest house.
Cái này đi hoài thôi.
Dạ lại.
Dạ lại. Lúc đấy.
Đây này.
No.
Wait. Can I drive this? Okay? Okay. Come on. Thank you.
And now in Dock Mill, a return to the volcanic lakes and the basalt roads. Phuc Long greeted me with roasted goat meat.
Like an invasion of motorbike riders.
And then Tay Ninh, the Chua Tien Lam, Gokun Buddhist temple, the holy colors of the Gao Dai temple, and the shadow of the Ba Den mountain watching over the plains. And finally, Saigon. The circle closed. The Odyssey returned to the city where it all began, many moons ago, with a drink, a motorbike, and a blessing I never expected. 36 destinations, 6,500 kilometers of mountains, borders, valleys, storms, strangers and stories. A journey that changed me, one road, one province, one impossible moment at a time. To the people of Vietnam, and to everyone who contributed, supported, and watched, it was a true pleasure to have you with me. Thank you for riding along. I will see you in my next adventure, in a new place and a new country. Until then, ride safe, explore more, and keep the spirit of the journey alive. Cheers, and good night.